This outstanding podcast, the Porterway Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the former welterweight champion of the world, Showtime, Shawn Porter. What's up, Shawn? I know you're doing double duty with your podcast, but also it's great to see you and talk with you. A new day is dawning when it comes to boxing with PBC pay-per-view on Prime Video. Tim Tszyu, Sebastian Fundora. Keith Thurman, a man that you know quite well. He got injured. Now replace him with Sebastian Fundora. Your thoughts on this main event?
I tell you what, my colleague, the Porterway Podcast, Ant, he got more excited when he saw this switch and it became Sebastian Fundora. I think from a stylistic standpoint, we could have a slightly more exciting fight. I think the fight with Keith Thurman was very intriguing. Obviously, I was on record for thinking that Keith was going to win that fight. I think we know truly where his health is in terms of his physical abilities now. But we got Sebastian Fundora, a guy that's tall, very capable of dethroning Tim Tszyu and taking him off this hot win streak that he's been on. So I think the main event is just as exciting. Maybe even more exciting than the original, and looking forward to boxing on Prime. I think it's prime time, man. It's time for something big, and I think Prime is the next best thing.
Is it crazy to think that this is going to be the largest height disparity in a non-heavyweight matchup? I mean, 9 inches that Tim Tszyu is going to be giving up to his opponent in Sebastian Fundora.
All respect, but I did that in my sleep. I've fought at these kind of deficits for a long time, so it's easy for me to see where Tim Tszyu can have success, can possibly KO Fundora, but also where I can see him having some struggles. I think one thing we know about Fundora is he's kind of right there in your face. So for Tim, it's always about getting past those first couple of punches. Fundora more than likely is going to be first the entirety of the fight. So I think we're going to have to see something new for Tim. How explosive can he be as a counterpuncher? How explosive can he be slipping and coming in and the leaving shots and then returning his own? So again, I mean, when you talk about the style matchup here and you talk about how exciting and how action-packed this main event is going to be, it's bar none at this point.
Is it going to be one of those things for Sebastian Fundora that he has to be disciplined and utilize that height, that reach advantage? We know he likes to mix it up, but in a fight like this, with not just one world title, but 2 world titles on the line, that he must remain disciplined.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about Fundora, what have you done for me lately? Well, I got knocked out lately, so everybody's looking at how is he going to come back from the Brian Mendoza knockout. Is he still healthy? Is he still fresh? What changes is he going to make in his game now? To his credit, he was winning that fight until he got stopped, until the knockdown. And so the thing is really not so much what do I change, but how do I become, to your point, more disciplined in certain areas. And I think really the only thing that Sebastian, for me, I think needs to change in his game is he needs a little bit better defense. The chin cannot be up in the air after you throw your shots, and you have to have better ways of escaping opposed to just moving straight back and then moving laterally, you know what I mean? So I think that this has the makings to be a really exciting fight, and I think it's a 50-50 fight, to be honest with you. I think at the end of the day, I'm looking at Tim Tszyu pulling it off, but it's 50-50.
Well, from 154 to 140, Rolando Romero defending his WBA Super Lightweight Championship against vschuk Pitbull Cruz. This one very well could steal the show, but I think a couple questions coming into this matchup. For Romero, how much bigger is he going to be than that of vschuk Cruz?
He's going to be bigger. Rolly is someone who did not shy away from eating food when he wasn't in training camp, but the thing I've seen from Rolly is he's got a lot of mass, got a lot of muscle, so cutting into that muscle to get to 135, you're no longer cutting into that muscle, which means you're going to be stronger. You're even mentally going to be stronger because you feel fresher mentally. I have extra 5 pounds now, so I think overall he's just going to be the bigger, stronger guy on fight night. Pitbull, not a very tall kid. He's got, some mass of his own as well. Punches with a lot of power. I do think that the co-main is going to steal the show until something crazy happens in the main event.
Well, the social media standpoint, there's a photo floating around of Cruz, and he looks in the best shape that we've ever seen him. So on that sort of thought process, it could appear that Cruz is going to try to set forth a frenetic pace and keep it on Romero throughout the entirety of the 12 rounds if it goes the distance.
Probably the hardest fight to predict in terms of how the outcome is going to be, but the easiest fight to predict in terms of how Cruz is going to come all night. He's coming right after Rolly. I mean, corner to corner, rope to rope, and Rolly's really going to have to keep him off with the jab and then show that power that he's shown in the past. You know, I think there's something we always say in boxing, the power is the last thing to go. So it doesn't matter what you've been through in the ring. It doesn't matter who you are now. That if you close your eyes and you still got that punch, you know, so I think this one's going to be really exciting. I think something crazy is going to happen in this one. And the co-main is definitely going to be probably the most fun fight to watch of the night.
Romero has stated he's going to knock out Cruz. Now, if he can somehow pull this off, how much would that send shockwaves throughout the 140-pound division?
That's the thing. When you talk about knocking out Cruz, the dude can take a punch. What are you going to knock him out with? You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I think to that point, Rolly has a punch. We know that. But I think with Isak is going to take more than one. And we'll see what happens. When your opponent takes your best shot, it makes you question a lot of things, you know, and it'll stop you from throwing that best shot again. That's the thing that Rolly cannot afford to do. He can't afford to release his best punch, Isak take it, and then now he shies away from it, you know. He's got to keep letting that big shot go. And the thing for Rolly is he doesn't have to look for Cruz. A lot like Fundora, it's going to be right in the face of Sebastian, in front of the face of Tim Tszyu. Isak is going to be right in the face of Rolando Romero. So, two exciting fights in the main and the co-main, and a really good undercard too.
Well, you got Lara, who's back, 40 years of age, taking on Michael Zaffara. Zaffara representing Australia, 2 Australians fighting for world titles. That could be significant from a global standpoint when it comes to their boxing history.
Listen, I've touched Australian soil, I think 4 times now. And I think I took some blessings over there, man. These guys have been really letting go and letting loose and showing themselves well. Tim Tszyu on top of all of that for Australia, but for Zaffara to come over here, and I just spoke with Nonito Donaire on my podcast, and he's saying, I know we got to surprise the world, you know, but we're not afraid of that. And more than anything, he's been working with Zaffara's mental. That's the thing we know about Lara. You can't outthink Lara. So stop thinking. Just go for it and go get it, you know. So that's what Nonito said they did. They're not going into the ring to think. They're going into the ring to fight and win every single round. And he said they're prepared for a landslide victory, which I like because that means we're going to get somebody who's going to push Lara. A lot of times he sits back and he picks you apart and it becomes this dry fight. We need somebody that's going to really push Lara and bring the best out of him. And I know in Lara's last fight, he got a crazy knockout in the last one. So moving up to 160, we see that he's got power at 160. So, top to bottom, we got a really great card.
Got Julio Cesar Martinez, Angelino Cordova, flyweights, always very exciting. And talk about kicking off the card with a fight that is going to produce a lot of fireworks. And guys, let's just say they're going to need whoever's counting punches is going to have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, I think this one it's not on the pay-per-view portion.
It is on the pay-per-view portion.
Okay, so this fight is on the pay-per-view portion, but that's one of those fights where I always like to say, if you're in a casino and you see a fight happening, that fight right there, Martinez and Cordova, that fight will make you stop and wonder what's going on. I need to watch this, and it could get you going and entice you to buy the entire card. So that one is one I think you should have took that off of the pay-per-view card and put it on the regular portion just so that people walking past bars, people walking in the casinos could see what's going on and it would entice them. That fight until it ends is going to be non-stop action-packed. For that one's going to be fun.
I know you've been to Australia. You were there for Tim Tszyu and Brian Mendoza. Brian Mendoza's back in action, taking on Sergey Bohachuk. With what you saw out of Brian Mendoza, now he's on the bounce-back fight mode against Sergey Bohachuk, who was supposed to fight Sebastian Fundora. Now enter Brian Mendoza. I think from a stylistic standpoint, it serves both men more to their advantages.
Yeah, absolutely. Serhi is a come at you kind of guy, about 6 foot tall-ish, and he's got a punch. I think 23 knockouts, 23 wins, all of them by knockout. And then Brian, it's something that Tim didn't allow him to do. Brian is a thinker. Brian likes to set you up, and he likes to capitalize after he sets you up. So I think Serhi's definitely going to give him those opportunities to set some things up. And Serhi's going to come out there and give everybody what they want, an action-packed fight, So both these guys, stylistically, that's a really good matchup, too.
You do an amazing job covering the sport on the Porterway Podcast. What can fans expect during this fight week when they tune in or watch you on YouTube?
I always like to say, man, we give you the boxing with a different delivery. You know what I mean? We add some fun to it. We add some pizzazz to it. We've had some rappers on recently. We've had some comedians on recently, and that's what we just keep trying to pour out. Make sure that you understand that this boxing game, it's a sport, but it's a sport that's supposed to entertain. And so that's what the Porterway Podcast is. We're trying to do: bring more entertainment to the sport of boxing.
Well, we're going to see if Tim Tszyu can provide some entertainment to the fans here in Australia and here in Las Vegas and in Australia as well. Shawn, greatly appreciate the time, and we look forward to seeing all your coverage throughout the week.
Got it, man. We'll talk soon.
Showtime, Shawn Porter, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of that in-depth look, let's take a closer examination on what Tim Tszyu is doing to prepare for battle. Coming up on Saturday, it is PBC pay-per-view on Prime Video.